to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and we are live here at the United Soccer Coaches Convention in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And like I told you guys on Kyle Almany's podcast, the one team we agree on. If you guys haven't checked that out yet, be sure to check out Kyle's podcast. But I told you guys on Kyle's podcast that I would be in Philadelphia with a guest. And this guest, he's been on the podcast once before. He recently started his own Philadelphia Union podcast, which I was one of his first guests on that podcast. But I was thinking, I need somebody that is a local in Philadelphia, that knows the Philadelphia Union, knows them probably better than me. And maybe I hinted at the name before a couple months ago, but I definitely gave you guys the name on Kyle's podcast. He is Billy Myers. Billy, welcome back on the podcast, and this time as a co-host.
Yeah, Todd, thanks. It's great being here. I really appreciate you asking me to come do this with you. First time at the United Soccer Coaches Convention, and this is really cool.
Yeah, it is cool. We talked to Greg Oldfield a little bit ago, and I told you guys on Twitter that would you guys want one long podcast episode? Would you guys want multiple 15, 20-minute episodes? And you guys said on Twitter you guys wanted multiple 15, 20-minute episodes a day. And so that's what we're going to try to give you guys. We'll give you guys a couple podcasts today on Thursday. Today is Thursday, I believe. Yeah, it is Thursday. And hopefully you guys enjoy this format that we're doing. This is only temporary because there's a lot of guests that we're going to try to get onto the podcast, a lot of topics we're going to discuss. And I was talking to Billy about, some of the greatest Union players that have ever played on the team. And I know it's so hard to judge this player, this era. And I know it's been discussed in blogs before, okay, who are the best Union players? What are the best Union teams? But myself, I've never done that conversation. I've never done that topic on the podcast. And after seeing the 2022 season we had, I was like, let's dive into this conversation. And Billy agreed. Yeah, let's dive into this conversation. So we're going to go ahead and talk about our top 10 greatest Union players. We'll give the best Union 11 that we could come up with, and then we'll talk about some depth, I'm sure, either this episode or on another episode you guys will hear today. But for top 10 Union players, Billy, you were telling me, it's so easy just to say all the number 10s we've had on the team. Like, they would all make the top 10 probably. And I do agree with you. I think there's going to be a lot of recency bias in this. I'll let you go ahead. I'll try not to be the host and talk as much. So I'll let you go ahead and give your list for your best Union players of all time.
Well, yeah, like I said, you could realistically just run through our best 10s. Nogueira, Barnetta, Gazdag, Roger Torres. I don't think there's anybody out there that would say none of those guys deserve to be on a top 10 list. I actually didn't write down a top 10 list because I don't think that it's possible to narrow it down. Like you said, there's different eras, there's different skill sets, different opinions. But also, you're right, recency bias does play into it because you could argue that 10 of the 11 players that we put out on the MLS Cup is the 10 best Union players in history because of everything that they've accomplished over just the last 2 years.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I'll go ahead and give my list. We can definitely talk about our best 11. There is a lot of players on my list that are on this current team. If I go ahead and look, there's Ale Bedoya, I think, would be in the top 10 greatest Union players. The discussion Union fans have been having lately is Ale Bedoya going to be in the Ring of Honor? And I think that's 100% a unanimous yes. This guy has changed the club since he came over from FC Nantes.
Yeah, 100%. He came in right at the time, that we were really starting to. The Union have always had a particular group of ethics and a vision. But when we signed Alejandro Bedoya, that was when we were really starting to push it in. We were getting the academy really moving. We were starting to bring in young players from the academy. We were really building in. I think he was the last of our aging U.S. men's national team signings. He's the only one that really stuck and did anything. And the way that man commands those 10 other players on the field. He missed a few games at the end of the season, and you could really tell that his presence was missing. MLS Cup is a different game, with Alejandro Bedoya in it. So yeah, he's got to be on anybody's top 10, and he certainly has to be in the Ring of Honor. And I mean, you can argue statue, coaching position, ownership. That guy has to stay with us as long as possible.
For sure. And I listened to Ale Bedoya did a interview. I forget, it was a local radio personality in Philadelphia. And they asked him, after you retire, do you want to get into coaching? And he said he thinks that he would be better suited for the front office. So maybe we see
scouting.
Scouting too. Maybe it's possible we see Ernst Tanner continue to be the sporting director. Maybe Ale Bedoya becomes the technical director since Chris Albright left. I mean, You never know. I mean, he's a guy who, like you mentioned, it's a totally different game if he's on the field against LAFC. And I know the last couple of podcasts I've done, I've talked about the 2022 season being a success or a failure. And I don't want to keep dwelling on what happened in LA against LAFC. But Jim Curtin did make it a point after the game. One thing that gets overlooked is it's a night and day difference when teams have the captain and when they don't have the captain out there. And when you put Jack McGlynn out there, I know you're a person who's not been the biggest fan of Jack McGlynn playing on the right side of the diamond. It makes a difference. And I think it showed against LAFC. You look, the first goal that LAFC scores, Jack McGlynn's in the wall, and he's the guy who flinches. When you're in the wall, you're told not to move, and Jack McGlynn flinches. If you have Ale Bedoya there, does he flinch? Probably not.
Probably not. Definitely not. Yeah. And you're right. It's different. You can see the way teams are different with their captains on the field, but you can also just tell some teams whose captains maybe don't have exactly everything that they need to be a captain. And Bedoya embodies everything, not just in what a team captain should be, but what in a captain of a Philadelphia sports team should be. And I mean, if you're trying to choose whether you want to go play in Europe or if you want to sign with the MLS, and Alejandro Bedoya comes to talk to you and tells you what we're doing in Philadelphia, it's going to be pretty difficult to say no. So I definitely hope that he sticks around in some capacity, just continuing to give insight and tips to our players, to our coaches, to the whole organization.
Yeah, and the good thing is, too, you look at a lot of the players the Union have had in the past that have stuck around and been coaches. You have Fred, you have Kleberson, who I know is now with New York City. El Senior is still in the area, even though he's not with the Union. I think that speaks of the culture that the Union create for the guys that after they retire, they want to stay in Philadelphia. And so that's a big credit to Jim Curtin and Ernst Tanner and the coaching staff that the Union have. Kai Wagner is definitely in my top 10 greatest Union players. You can make the argument that Kai Wagner may be the greatest Union player ever. I'm not putting any of these guys in any order from 1 to 10, but Kai Wagner, I mean, he's been fantastic. The greatest left back in MLS.
And again, he 100% embodies the way that Philadelphia expects their players to play. He puts everything he has every time he gets out there, and you can see it in his face when he scores, when he assists, when we lose. He breathes what this city is for sports.
Yeah, and I was going to say it's criminal that Kai Wagner's not in Europe yet. I know Jim Curtin gets asked about it all the time. I mean, he was asked about it this week in practice. Kai Wagner's not gone yet. He's still here. And then Kai Wagner talked with the journalist after practice and said, I got to sit down with my family and discuss a possible extension. I mean, maybe it is possible Kai Wagner stays here for the rest of his career. I mean, I think he's good enough to play in Europe, but the Union aren't going to sell a guy just to sell him. They want it to be the right situation for the player, and they want to make sure that they get compensated well, especially for a guy who was playing in the third division in Germany.
That's exactly right. And as much as Kai wants to play in Europe, he doesn't want to play in Europe just to play in Europe. It has to be, right for his career, right for his family. Selfishly, it has to be right for the Union as well. We're not going to just let one of our best players ever go for free. So it's a lot of moving parts to go there, and he probably will be upset if he stays in Philadelphia for the rest of his career. But there are definitely worse places. I think he's much happier than, like you said, in third division Germany. He absolutely deserves to be in any of the top 5 leagues. I think he could play in any of the top teams in the top 5 leagues. Also, he's got what it takes, and I don't think he's at his peak yet. I think he can continue to get better with the better competition that he plays. And it's another reason why I'm really excited to see him this year. I'm glad that he's back because we have Champions League and we have Leagues Cup, and we're going to be playing more international competition, teams that are going to be better than us, and there's more room for him to grow and show everything that he has. So, I mean, I'm sad for him that he's not, getting everything that he desires, but I also at the same time hope that he understands how much we love and appreciate everything that he does, and hope that he's not upset about staying here at the same time.
Yeah, and he's never been a player that's complained about staying in MLS. The Union looked out for him, and when other teams in Europe overlooked him, and the Union said, "You know what? Come to MLS. We have a left back spot that we think that you can compete for." He won the job, and he's become one of the best left backs. And I think personally too, we saw with Germany at the World Cup, they do not have a left back. Like, I think Kai Wagner is that good enough that it sucks that the national team mindset is, oh, well, if you don't play in a top league, we're not going to call you into the national team. But it's kind of the same situation with Hani Mukhtar in Nashville. There's no reason why he shouldn't have been one of the 26 on that roster. I'm not saying that he should play. I mean, look at Thiago Almeida with Argentina. He barely played, but they thought that he was good enough that they included him in the top 26. And I know
he was a
that
last-minute
a player got hurt, right?
But he was
on the bubble.
He
was on the bubble. And so it's criminal for me that, okay, the Germany national team looks at German players in MLS and says, well, you're not playing in a top league. We're not going to call you into the national team. And maybe that mindset changes for Germany after they've disappointed yet again at the World Cup. We'll hope, as Union fans, we hope Kai Wagner's here for the foreseeable future, but you can't fault a player for wanting to test himself at the highest levels, and that's exactly what Kai Wagner wants to do. Daniel Gazdag is on my list. Jim Curtin, we just heard him in his press conference, still upset that he wasn't in the top 3 finalists for MVP of the year.
Criminal.
What a player. David Goss always, I hope I said that last name right, always talks about the Goss theorem. And Daniel Gazdag did that and then some.
I don't think Gazdag even qualifies for the Goss theorem because he had a good 2021. I mean, I know there were a lot of Gazdag haters out there at the end of 2021, but I don't understand how anybody could say that guy didn't have a good half a season that he was here. He didn't show us everything he had, but by the end of the season, when he started to get comfortable, when he started to learn his teammates, you could see the vision, the skill, the ability was there. And now that he got a full season under his belt, it's, you, me, and there was a bunch of other people that saw what this guy could do. There was never a chance where anybody that understands the sport was questioning whether he was going to be a flop or not. So I don't put him in that Goss theorem because at the end of 2021 we knew what he was going to do in 2022. It wasn't a next year he'll be good. He was already good. Next year he's going to be better.
And it's the same thing with Ale Bedoya in 2016, right? When he came over from Nantes in August, I believe it was. The MLS season's halfway through and everything, and so he's getting adjusted to a new league, new teammates and everything. We knew Ale Bedoya was good.
Season.
He was playing with a national team. And what was Daniel Gazdag doing? Playing with a national team in Hungary. And so
fighting
it's just...
for relegation. Fighting against relegation. Yeah,
exactly. And so his mind... The Union could have got him in a lot earlier, but he wanted to stay there to make sure that his boyhood club did not get relegated. And I think that speaks to the type of player he is right there. Absolutely. That says, look, I know you guys want me. I'm going to come there, but I want to make sure that my hometown team's okay before I leave and go off to another adventure. Andre Blake, I would put him in my top 10 as well. What more should we say about Andre Blake? This guy's going into the Ring of Honor. You can make the argument that he's our best ever goalkeeper, and I know we'll get to that in a little bit. But Andre Blake's been fantastic coming out of UConn.
Yeah, I mean, one of the last Union draft picks and one that's been incredibly successful. There's a story, out there about Zach McMath being at the draft when the Union decided to trade last minute for the number 1 pick to draft Andre Blake, when we already had 2-3 goalkeepers on staff, and then we signed Rise Mboli as well. So I think we were carrying 4 goalkeepers at one time, and there was no need for another goalkeeper. But he was not only the best goalkeeper in the draft, but he was the best player by far in the draft. And now this is his 10th season, 10 years in, and he's proven that every step of the way. And even last year, he was what was that, in the top 10 goalkeepers in the world list? So yeah, Andre Blake has to be in anybody's top 10. Has to be Ring of Honor. Another guy that I hope stays around for the rest of his career and even gets into coaching. I would love to see Andre Blake goalkeeper coach for the Philadelphia Union.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Let Phil Wedden go ahead and retire, and then Andre takes over as goalkeeper coach. Well, maybe you can create a joint position for both of them. I don't know. So the last one that currently plays for the Union, Jacob Glesnes. I know you can make the argument for Jack Elliott. I really want to get to our best 11 since you actually put time into that. So I'll go over these names briefly. The other players I have in my top 10 greatest Union players of all time is Carlos Valdez, phenomenal center back for the Union. We saw him actually get called back into the national team with Colombia while playing for the Union. I think Borek Dashkal, even though he was only here for one season, 18 assists in 2018. I mean, imagine if he was here for the next couple of years. I mean, maybe we don't get Daniel Gazdag, but Borek was exactly what you want in a number 10. I would put Jamiro Montero on that list. That guy is so skillful on the ball. And I know it pisses off some fans because they would say, oh, he gives the ball away too easily. I think you and I can both agree that Jamiro was a lot better as a number 8 than he was number 10.
Yeah, Jamiro definitely, he gave the ball away too much, but the one thing that he did do was that he took chances and he took players on, and that was something that had been missing from the Philadelphia Union's attack. And some can argue even was before Gazdag really got going, was missing from the attack. Players like Montero and players like Aronson that are willing to take a player one-on-one is something that we didn't have for a long time. So Jamiro Montero definitely has to be in the top 10.
And then the last player that I would include is El Sino. 6 seasons with the club. He's one of 3 players with Ale Bedoya and Sebastian Latour in the 2020 club. What a player El Sino was. I mean, we've been blessed with so many talented players that, okay, weren't here in the prime of their careers, or they were just starting the prime of their careers and then they go off to better. But El Sino, what a player he was coming off the bench the last couple seasons for the Union.
Yeah, there's not much more that you need to say about the impact that El Sino had on the team. The human cheat code. Extra Time has the El Sino Super Sub award at the end of the season. The guy, the name speaks for itself.
Yeah, it really does. And honorable mentions, I could have put Jack Elliott in this list. Vincent Nogueira, Barnetta, Jose Martinez, one of the best number 6s. I mean, like we talked about, so much recency bias that we could put into this list. But let's go ahead and talk about our best 11 for the Union. And like you said, you actually have your list. So I'll go ahead and let you give your list first.
Let's go position by position.
Yeah, let's do that. Good. You want to start with goalkeeper?
Yeah, goalkeeper, I actually have Faroud Mondragon.
It's controversial, I'm sure, for listeners that you would not put Andre Blake in there, who I do have.
Yeah, maybe it is, but I feel like Andre Blake is too easy of an answer. You know, he's our longest tenured goalkeeper. He's had the chance to win all that he could, all that he's done in 10 seasons. Farid, in one season, set, I think, a clean sheet record, got us into the playoffs. Had he stayed, I definitely foresee us going double playoffs and possibly even winning a first playoff game before 2019. 2019. Our second appearance was 2016. So, yeah. Farid Mondragon just had a better career overall. That's not a slight on Andre Blake, but he's played 10 years in MLS. Farid Mondragon has played around the world, 3 World Cups. At one point held the record for the oldest player to start a World Cup game. I think he played with Colombia in the Olympics as well. He's just had a better career and a more immediate impact on the Philadelphia Union, whereas it took Andre Blake a few seasons to really get going. And then he still has those rare off-season.
2019. I mean, I remember sitting here on this podcast saying, you know, maybe the Union should think about a goalkeeper because of all those blunders that Andre Blake had. We saw that against New York Red Bulls in the playoffs. But, you know, to his credit, he came back better than ever. And I think part of that credit goes to Phil Wedden. When I had him on the podcast, I gave him that credit. And he says, no, it's not me. It's Andre Blake. And I do think Phil Wedden does deserve some of the credit for turning Andre's game around to what we've seen the last 3 years now with him.
Absolutely. The entire Philadelphia Union coaching staff beyond Jim Curtin is really unsung heroes. I mean, I follow Phil on social medias and just his in-depth analysis of the game and the position. The guy sees it as more than just stopping balls. You know, it's stats and videos and training, and he's constantly doing conferences and teaching, and just it's incredible that we have these types of coaches on our staff, and it shows every weekend in the game.
It does. I mean, it makes a difference 100%. And I think that speaks to Phil Wedding's character where, like you said, he's going out doing conferences. He's not afraid to share his ideas. He wants soccer to grow in this country, in the world. And if he has good ideas, he's going to share them with other goalkeepers, other coaches. Let's go with left back. I think we're both going to agree Kai Wagner on this list.
Wagner.
Yeah, so I mean, not much more you can say. We just spent like 5 minutes talking about Kai Wagner. So let's go ahead to one of the center backs. Who are you going to put in?
I'll have to put Jack Elliott. I know, like you said, for your top 10, you put Jacob Glesnes, and there's an argument that Jacob Glesnes is good, but Jack Elliott is playing out of position on a weak foot and still playing as well. So if roles are reversed, I don't think Glesnes plays the left center back as well, and Jack excels at the right center back. So to play a left center back as a right-footed player just speaks more to his talent and also to his commitment to the team, where he was asked to play on his weak foot in an uncomfortable position, and he had no problem with it, and he goes out there and he shuts it down every game.
He does every single game. And, you know, it was so hard for me because I was like, well, why do I like Jacob Glesnes more than I do Jack Elliott? And I can't use the argument that because they score off of set pieces, because they both score off of set pieces.
Jack Elliott, 2 goals in MLS Cup.
Yeah, for sure. And then, we all know that Jacob Glesnes can score from a free kick, but so can Jack Elliott. And I think some of that is because Jack Elliott was a striker when he was at West Virginia, so he knows how to strike a soccer ball. But for me, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm using the recency bias of Glesnes winning MLS Defender of the Year or one of the Defenders of the Year. Actually, yeah, Defender of the Year. And there's an argument that Jack Elliott could have made that. But the writers, the players, they all voted Jacob Glesnes over Kai Wagner. For your second center back, who are you putting in?
Carlos Valdez.
Same here.
Carlos Valdez. He came to MLS. He broke, that stigma that MLS players don't get looked at by their national teams in 2011. It's more common now for South American players to come to MLS, to jump to Europe, to jump to the national team. But in 2011, the Colombian coach said, no, you're playing in MLS. I'm not going to get you. And Valdez played one season and proved that he had to make a move again. That was a bit of the controversy, was making the move was still better for him to be on the national team. But he proved that he deserved to be in any league and on the national team. And I wish we could have held on to him for many more seasons.
See, that's why I'm so glad to have you here, because you were around for those days. So I never got to see Carlos Valdez play. I mean, I watched YouTube highlights and everything, but I know how good Carlos Valdez was for this team. And a big reason for that was because, he played so good that he had to make a move to get into the national team, but then he came back to the Union after that move, correct?
I think he was supposed to, and then something happened, and he actually never really did. He only played one season for us.
But regardless, I mean, that one season for the Union, I mean, that's as
playoffs
good as you can ask for a center back.
Yep.
Let's go ahead. Right back. There's a couple ways you could take your right back, I think, but I think you're gonna say Bizo.
Nope.
No.
Shannon Williams.
Ooh.
Yeah, I grew up playing right back. I actually played left back in high school, but still I was a defender, a fullback, and Bizo makes too many mistakes defensively. I know he's good getting forward. Shannon Williams was good going forward. He had that long throw that was so important to our success in 2011, and he was just really strong defensively too. He went undrafted, fought his way through USL, got a tryout with the Union, and got signed mid-2010 and stayed with us for a few years, had a decent MLS career, and for me has been the best right back that the Union have ever had.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point, especially when you look where set pieces weren't really a big part of the game back in the day, where this guy has a long throw-in, and it became a great weapon for the Union. For me, I said Olivier Bizo because, and I know some fans out there are probably like, well, I would put Ray Gaddis in this list. Well, here's why I'm not putting Ray Gaddis in this list, but because Bizo took Ray Gaddis' spot. And why did Bizo take Ray Gaddis' spot? Because he was better attacking.
Because he retired.
Because he retired.
No, because he retired.
Because he retired and then came out of retirement.
If Ray Gaddis didn't retire and Bizo wasn't getting his spot.
Ooh.
And I didn't put Ray Gaddis because he wasn't enough going forward, just like in Bizo's not enough going back. And I feel that Shannon Williams was enough of a balance in those early years to be better than both.
It's a good point. It's a good point. We'll see if any of us get stick on Twitter for these picks.
I'm already getting it.
Let's go ahead and look at our defensive midfielder, Jose Martinez.
Brujo.
Yeah. I mean, like I said,
Not just in the Union, but in league history,
Yeah.
possibly.
Yeah. I mean, phenomenal. I mean, Jim Curtin says all the time, when coaches talk to him, when scouts talk to him, they say, find us the next Jose Martinez because he's been that good. And I don't care what other people say about, Jose Martinez this, Jose Martinez that. He can pass. He can break up an attack.
Diagonal ball.
We haven't seen him score yet, but that
Not
diagonal
yet.
ball, it's phenomenal. I mean, he's exactly what you want. And you want a player that's not afraid to get under players' skins. And
Yeah,
that's exactly
toe
what
the
you have in
line.
Jose Martinez.
Took him a few seasons to learn the balance. It's he came in as the project player. He was supposed to be behind Orovich and blew Jim and Pat out of the water and started that first game, LAFC. We took the boot to the face and stayed in and played
And
the
people
game
are like,
bleeding.
that's a Philly player.
He embodies everything that this city is. He did that interview, that article where he said that he loves the city so much he could spend the rest of his life here.
Philadelphia, yeah.
Yeah. Everything that guy is everything that I look for in a player, that this city looks for in a player. And you're right. Teams are now going out and saying, don't find me a defensive midfielder. Don't find me a Dax McCarthy. Find me a Jose Martinez. They shouldn't call it the 6 anymore. They should call it the Brujo. Who's playing Brujo?
Yeah, for sure. And you and I were texting about this. Could we potentially see Jose Martinez be a lifer in MLS? And I think he's at the age of 28, I believe it is, where, look, he left Venezuela at 25, and usually, you want to leave a country like that a little bit at a younger age, but he wasn't ready yet. He wasn't developed enough yet. And then the Union, to their credit, they scout this guy. He was supposed to be a project, like you said, and took the starting spot.
Yeah. And the way, the physicality that he plays with is not friendly for your body. So it's not a position that you foresee playing, deep into your 30s. So at 28, I don't see him going to a top European team. Maybe a low, a low Serie A or a low team in one of the top leagues or in one of the second divisions. He could still play in Liga MX or anywhere in South America. But if he's happy here, I'm happy with him here.
Yeah, I do worry about Liga MX. We do see a lot of Liga MX teams sign those type of players at that age too, and they thrive in Liga MX. Maybe Jose is tempted by an offer like that, but like you said, he did an interview where he said, I'm happy in Philadelphia. I could see myself staying here. And the player that I always compare Jose Martinez to is Christian Karasis, his national team teammate with New York Red Bulls. There's rumor after rumor that, he's too good enough. He's too good for MLS, and he hasn't left MLS yet. He's still with New York Red Bulls. So if Christian's still there, why can't Jose Martinez still be with the Union? Let's go ahead and talk about one of the two shuttlers, number 8s, assuming that we're both doing a 4-4-2, right?
Yeah.
Okay. For me, I'm going with Ale Bedoya. I guess it doesn't matter because I gave Ale Bedoya and Jamir Montero in my top 10 greatest Union players ever. So I'm curious to hear your two number 8s.
Yeah, so on the right side, I went Ilsinho, and on the left, I went Jamiro.
I was thinking El Senior too, because I mean, this guy, was more of a right midfielder, could play as a right back. I think he played there when he was in Ukraine. Yep. You could play him as a number 10. He's so versatile. Mm-hmm. But El Senior as an 8, yeah, I could see it. And then Jamiro, man.
The two attacking players, the two players in Union history with the most flair, the most desire to take people one-on-one.
If Jamir Montero doesn't get pissed about not playing the 10 because we signed Daniel Gazdag as the 10, Jamiro, you're not the 10, he could still be on this team. We could still be having the success, maybe getting more offensive productivity on the left side of the field, which then begs into question, what do we do with Leon Flock? But I don't have a problem with Leon Flock because of what he offers defensively. Every single year, he's getting better and better offensively. And yeah, a lot of the stats don't show it, but he's making the right passes. He's making the right runs that never show up on the stat sheets. But you got to imagine if Jamiro Montero was still at the club, he would probably be playing on the left side of the diamond. That's if he's happy playing as an 8, not as a 10. Let's go to you, an attacking midfielder. I'm curious to hear what you have to say for that.
At the 10?
Yep.
Gazdag.
Okay, same here, yeah.
But like I said, earlier, you could list any of our 10s. I think they were all great. Barnetta, Noguera, Maidana, Roger Torres. None of them were given enough time to really shine. And I think Gazdag came in and did more with the little bit of time that he's had so far
Yep.
than any of those guys did. But I mean, 5 years of Barnetto would have been MLS Cup after MLS Cup. 5 years of Chaco, 5 years of Noguera. Any of them could have been that. But we've got Gazdag, and he's in a year and a half. He's already proven, and now he's earned the DP contract, and I think he's just gonna keep getting better.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I am a little bit concerned, though, seeing him switch to the number 10 jersey and not the 6 anymore, because every time we have a player playing as a number 10, they don't last that long with the Union. So hopefully that's not the case with Daniel Gazdag. But again, I put Daniel Gazdag in my top 10 greatest Union players. He is my number 6 for best 11. Let's talk about the 2 strikers. Who's one of your strikers?
I think we're in full agreement on this. It's Sebastian Letou and Mikel Ua.
100%.
Sebastian Letou is the team legend. And what I don't think some people realize is that he's got 50 goals and 50 assists in like 3 mini stints with the Union. The guy left, came back, dropped a bunch of goals, then left and came back again, did it again. He's just, I don't know what it was. He doesn't look like he should be a great soccer player. He doesn't have like, the physical body that Carranza has, that Ua has. He's not super tall, but the guy just knew how to be where the ball was going to be and how to put it in the back of the net somehow magically.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, 50 goals, 50 assists. I mean, if we had Sebastian Letou on this current Union team, his stats would be a lot better than those 50-50 that he has with terrible Union teams back in the day.
Yeah, that's the other thing, man. He did that with mediocre teams, with rotating lineups. The guy was just scoring goals with hardly any service at the time. If he had a real team like we have now, it would his numbers would be double.
I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say that he would have 100 goals with the club.
Yeah.
I mean, you put the creators that we have around him right now.
Especially if a certain coach didn't try to sell him, out of spite. If he had stayed with us instead of leaving that first time around, his numbers would be much higher also.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, I love Julian Carranza, to see what he did, what he didn't do in Miami, what he did with Union. I mean, that just shows that Ernst Tanner has an eye for talent. He knew that Julian Carranza's talented, but he needs to be in the right system. He's in the right system in Philadelphia. But Mikel Ua, it feels like every chance that he got was a goal. If it wasn't a goal, it was a shot on target. And then the next shot on target's a goal. And so that's why I put Mikel Ua in instead of Julian Carranza. But I can hear the argument for Julian Carranza instead of Mikel Ua. But yeah, I think these are 2 really good best 11s for the Union. So would love to know what you guys have to say on Twitter, is where I'm most active. I believe that's where you're most active too. Killing those trolls on Twitter, Billy. But you also do a podcast, and I know we're going to plug it many times throughout this convention. Where can people find your podcast? Where can they find you on social media and all that good stuff?
So the podcast is on Spotify and Apple. I think just the 2 for now. It's called Growing Up Union. We're trying to do something a little different. We don't talk tactics and numbers and positions and stuff. We just talk to people that are involved with the MLS. We talk to them what it was like, being a child, how they got into the sport, what their hobbies were, what it was like growing up, how that affected them as they grew into adulthood. And then they read my son a book, and, we're trying to do some good. We're trying to raise some money for charities that really help, help shine a light on the importance of reading in a child's development.
Yeah, it's definitely super important. It's something that, it's like, yeah, I should definitely read a book now, but I'm too lazy to. It's like, man, reading's so important for your everyday life, and I definitely got to get better at reading and everything. I mean, I loved it. Actually, no, it's a lie, because you asked me that question on your podcast.
No, you didn't.
And I think I wanted to say that I loved it, but then my mom's like, no, you didn't. So, no, I did not love reading growing up. But, yeah, I mean, it is so important just to read every single day. And, all I read is, I feel like, sports stuff. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow @FreeKickPod. Like I said, we're live here in Philadelphia, down at the Philadelphia Convention Center. If you guys don't have a pass yet, I mean, stop on by. Come here. We'd love to chat and everything. It's a great convention down here, just with soccer-minded people visiting. We hope to have a lot of guests lined up for you guys for the podcast. The next topic Billy and I are going to talk about is the Union depth. And I do have a nice little tidbit in there. If we could bring one former Philadelphia Union player back in the prime of their career, so not at their prime when they were with the Union, but just their prime in their career in general. If we could bring them back, put them in this current Philadelphia Union team, what player would you choose? But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.